Check this out. Josh Fetcher from HR University, he released a video where the title was Employee Onboarding Checklist for New Employees, right? And in the video, he gave an overview of it's like a 5-step overview of the different phases of onboarding. So I'm gonna share what he said. So he said pre-boarding, looking at my notes. He said pre-boarding is the first segment, where the second segment is orientation. The third segment is introductions. So the first week where you do introductions and to the company and other people, and then segment 4 is training and feedback, and then segment 5 is a check-in and feedback. So I like this. I like it because it's a pretty easy to understand overview of an onboarding process. And I don't think it's unique to one organization. I think most organizations can have what they would consider a high level overview of a few amount of steps or segments that you would use to onboard an employee. So here's how I want you to take what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to explain to you the various holes inside of your onboarding strategy from, my point of view. So even if you do this or you do something similar, what I'm going to talk about is still going to spark some ideas for you to use in your onboarding strategy. So listen, my name is Thurman Trotman. I am the host of the SharePoint Help Desk podcast. And I want to say thank you for tuning in. And then also let you know that if this is your first time tuning in, you might have been looking for SharePoint information, which is what I talk about. However, I focus more on the strategy of how you use SharePoint. So if you're, looking at, a specific thing that SharePoint can do, we can talk about that. But I'm going to talk about all of the non-technical things that surround that. Like today, I'm talking about onboarding. Onboarding is not unique to SharePoint, but I'm going to tell you my point of view on how you're leaving holes in your onboarding strategy and how you could plug those holes with SharePoint. And this comes from my experience, been like 20 years of supporting, organizations that do all of these things. And I've seen them done well. I've seen them done not so well. You know what I'm saying? Especially onboarding. It seems like onboarding is a process that organizations are still, to this day, very mature organizations are still struggling with. They still have challenges with onboarding. So let's talk about it. So the very first thing. Now listen, I started doing a video component of my show here, and before doing video, I always had notes in front of me, like little bullet points that I got to check on. But if you see me doing it on video, it's just, now the I guess the cat is out the bag. You can see me checking notes, but I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm just pointing that out. So let's do this. All right. In his first segment, Mr. Fetcher over there, Josh, he said that you do like pre-onboarding. This is where before the employee really sits down for their first day. Unfortunately, who's that? Wow, Raphael just fell. I'm very upset about that. So for those of you who are not able to see the video, you're not watching this on video, my Raphael figurine just fell. Someone was in here just adjusting it. I won't name any names who was trying to adjust it, but it just fell. And now that is very distracting to me. But I'm going to push through. It's all good. So yeah. Before onboarding, here's my thoughts on pre-onboarding. You get the new employee to give you information that you can use in their onboarding process. So let's say that the pre-onboarding happens, they get the official announcement on Monday and their start date is, 2 weeks from that Monday or something like that, right? You send them a form. You send them a link, you send them a form, and you ask them to fill out these things. Now, on this form, you could ask for things like name, address that you might already have. If you already have it, then, if you can avoid asking for it again, please do. But just know that because you have a new employee who's eager to get on the job and who is, excited to get this job and all that other stuff, you can be a little annoying with your form because a new employee is like, oh man, I don't care what they ask me to do. I'm all excited about this job. So under normal circumstances, I would tell you to kind of be more strategic with the way you build your forms and ask for information. But in this case, with a new employee, you kind of got some leeway to be a little obnoxious. In other words, you already have their address. What are you asking for their address again for? You know what I'm saying? That type thing. If you can avoid asking for it, no problem. But if you can't and you're just like, yo, listen, just ask for the address and other pieces of information that you might already have, just do it. The employee will fill it out. They're excited to be on board. They will not take it as too annoying. So that's that. Anyway, you ask for a bunch of information, right? And let's just say that it's a 30 question intake form. And on this intake form, you're asking for things like, uh, like I said, name. You don't have to ask for name. You'll get that automatically. But maybe you say, do you have any nicknames that you want to go by? Then you ask for things like, what's the latest song you added to your playlist? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? If you're that type of company that would ask that type of stuff and then use it, cool. But here's the technical piece. When you finish asking for that, when that person goes through all of that information and they hit submit, you can take all of that data and now route it to the people who need to see it. So let's say there's like 30 questions on this intake form. Once they hit submit, you can send a notification to HR. HR probably initiated this form, but let's say you send this notification to HR and HR gets a bunch of information that they need to start setting things up for the employee. They get notification that says new employee on board. Here's the information that you need to get going with whatever. That's what's in the body of the email, right? Pardon me. That same data. Maybe you don't, it's a 30 question intake form. You don't need all 30 data points. You just need maybe like 3 or 4 to send to IT. So at the same time that this person has just hit submit, an email automatically goes to HR. An email automatically goes to IT. An email automatically goes to the CEO or multiple leaders on the leadership team. An email automatically goes to the IT department. Like 4 emails can be sent out off of that one button press, and it'll pluck little pieces of information from the form that has been submitted and send it to whoever you want to send it to. So you now have, let's take IT for instance. IT gets an email and it says, new person on board, please set them up with X, Y, and Z. And IT knows what they're supposed to do. Get a laptop, get a monitor, mouse, keyboard, webcam, whatever. They just know they have to do that. The way that they get initiated, the way that they get told to do that task is by this automated email coming in after the employee does their intake. So the employee doing the intake is super important. You must make sure that they, get that done. And you tell them why you need them to get it done, because this form will have people, this form will have people start doing their part of the job. So HR gets it, they start setting up, I don't know, benefits or whatever. IT gets it, they start, making sure that they go into their inventory and start to get their IT equipment set up. Then you got, I like this one. Here's one that I'm also throwing in here. So like there's a content manager of your intranet. Your intranet never fails, boy. Wow. My apologies. Yeah. Every time I do an episode, I forget to turn my phone off, and there's always a notification that comes through right on time. All right, here we go. Let me turn this off. All right, so pardon me. All right. IT department, they get it. Where was I? IT department. And, here's what I like, right? Let's say that you have a content manager, which I highly recommend. You have a content manager or a knowledge manager or whatever it is, right? That gets a notification when the person hits submit. So their notification says, hey, their email says, hey, new person on board, please go to the internet and set them up with an announcement page or an announcement news item, right? Here are their details. They probably answered the nickname question. Maybe they answered the playlist question, whatever. And then the person who's in charge of the content management, who does content management, they go to the internet and literally create a new announcement, a new news item. It has a picture of the person, it has their name and their nickname, and cool things that they're into, kind of foods they like, a fun fact about them, and then publish. People get the notification throughout the organization, and then a bunch of people can come and comment and say, "Hey, welcome to the team, this, that, and third, whatever, whatever." This is a great piece of your process that you might be currently missing. Can you imagine that? I know it's a bit much to consider having a content manager, but that's a very valuable position for someone who is trying to make sure that all the moving pieces of the internet are in line. And then also imagine if you plug the whole of your in processing or your onboarding process with something like this. Like there's an announcement where everybody in the organization gets a notification saying, "Hey, look, we got a new person on board." It's not just some little quick announcement or whatever. But then look at this too. If you did this via email, in order to go through your inbox and look for this stuff, I mean, you can do that. Like if I'm an employee who's like, "Yo, I just got back, and while I was gone, 2 people got announced." I could either go through my inbox and try to find that information, or go to the internet. I can go to the internet and click on a button that says new hires or let's welcome new team members or something like that. I click on that, and then I can see all the news items that are specifically tagged to show who just came on board, and I can read up on this person. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe shoot them an email if I felt like, "Hey, welcome on board," or maybe I do the what is that? The comment. I leave a comment and say, "Yo, that's what's up. Welcome on board. Glad to have you." You know what I mean? So that is one way to plug your current hole or one of your holes in your onboarding process. Let's go for another one. So, okay. I'm going to show you what you can add to I'm going to talk about something you can add to the intranet, right? So you have your one central location, which is the intranet. And you can have multiple things on there as resources that people can use. Imagine having a places to eat section, right? On places to eat, this is where you get people in the organization to talk about local places that they eat and how they feel about them. So you went to the local deli, right? And the deli makes these crazy subs. And as a matter of fact, at my old organization years ago, right? I used to have this sandwich, this sub that I would go to this. I would go at lunchtime and order this sub, and it was like after a while they started calling it the Thurman because they found out about this sub because of me. This is really ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous retelling this story, but I know that I think. Let me say I think. I can't remember. I can't say I know because I can't remember for sure. I think that I was told at one point that someone went and got that sub from that shop because of the way that I described it on the places to eat section that I built on the internet. You go to places to eat, you can search by the type of cuisine you want. You can find it, and then you can see comments from other people throughout the organization talking about it. And I had this specific sandwich that I used to go there and have them build. It was like Black Forest ham and turkey and jalapeno mayo and certain kind of pickles and a whole thing, you know what I'm saying? Salt, pepper, vinegar. It was super good. OD big to eat, like crazy big. Anyway, imagine having that, right? A places to eat section on the internet that new employee, current employee, it doesn't matter, can go there and use. So you can add a new place to eat and say, here's what I think about it. Maybe put a link to the shop or mention someone who is great to deal with when you go there or the best time to go there because of the time. The same thing you see happening out on the internet. This is now your intranet. You can put a places to eat area and then, introduce that to the employee during onboarding. So one of the notifications that they get through the process is, hey, have you seen the places to eat section? Check it out, because you might find something good to eat, whatever. Who knows? So that's another one. Now, that is during onboarding, right? So if we are, oh bad, let me get up on the mic here. So let's stick with the steps that my guy Mr. Fetcher talked about, right? Hold on here. That is crazy. I need to get back to my graphic. All right. Where? Wow. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. Sorry about that. All right. We now have where we go to segment 3, where we talk about the introduction of the company and people and all that, right? Now, I love in person, so I'm never gonna say don't do that in person, introduction. But you might lose the ability to do that because you might be a heavily remote organization. So if you're in a situation where you're heavily remote, remember, matter of fact, let me back up. There's an importance in having absolutely one way that you do your intake. Don't have different departments doing intake. Don't do that. Don't have HR do their kind of intake and then pass the person off to finance where they got to do their intake there and get bank account details and all that. Don't do that. Make it all with that one intake form that I was talking about. Have the person put all of the things that you need in that form. That's why I was talking about their new employee. Under normal circumstances, I tell you, don't make these forms so super long. You got to like be strategic with how you build your forms, so it's not the person doesn't experience fatigue as they're trying to give you this information. You want good information in the form, but they're new, they're excited, they'll give you damn near anything. So ask for the information you need in that one intake process, in that one intake form, and then split it out to the departments that need it, right? So if that's your one way, that means you upgrade that process when you want to add something new. You don't go think of something new. Some new department comes up with an idea and they say, hey, we should be doing this during intake. And then you say, okay, go ahead, do that. I like that. No, if the organization, if one of the teams say, hey, we should be doing this during intake, then you as the leader, you say, I like that idea. Let's incorporate that into our current process. The one process that we have to do the during pre-onboarding. So let's incorporate that, and then we can take steps from there. So what I'm saying here is, during that process, we're going to be sending the new employee notifications. One of the notifications that we can send them is a list of people that they would want to meet. Even better if you have a specific person that you want them to meet. That's what I like. You know what I'm saying? A buddy, somebody to help them do onboarding. So if we can help them do onboarding, team up with somebody, that's beautiful. Add that to the list of things that we will notify this new employee of. So they'll get a new email, and this email will say, they'll get one of the emails in the process will say, hey, you want to set up a virtual meeting with these people, just a quick 10-15 minute. They're expecting to hear from you. Click right here to set something up on their calendar. Very easy. Because we're remote and we can't walk around and talk to everybody, we'll do a virtual meeting round robin. You can put that in your email and notify them. Okay, so let's recap, because I did want to do 5, and so far we're at 3, so let's do a recap. So during pre-boarding, this is where I tell you, create an intake form, have them fill out any and everything. You know what I mean? Just ask for what you need beforehand, and then use that to inform how you do the process going forward. Give all the data to whichever department needs it, right? Then you have an orientation. This is the second segment, new employee welcome. This is where we add pretty much, You can do anything you want. But if you listen to what I tell you, then this is where you can add a form that allows you to route it to the content manager, right? So this is where you have a form that allows you to route this information to what I like to call the content manager, or it could be a knowledge manager, whatever. So the new employee welcome portion can start on the intranet. You put a new, news item up and introduce them to everybody. Segment 3, where you're doing introductions. Use the technology to inform how you want to do this. So if you want them to set up a quick meeting with, all of the department heads or specific department heads and a I'm about to say battle buddy. That's terminology we use in the Army. And a buddy, then in the process that we've been using where we intake information from the employee and then we send them notifications, send them an email that says, here are 6 people you want to set up a meeting with. Click right here to get on their calendar to, set up a meeting. All right. So those are 3. Now let's get to the 5th segment where we're talking about training. I'm sorry, not the 5th segment. I meant the 4th segment. So 4th segment, right? We're talking about training. Now, in this like process that I keep talking about, where you are sending out notifications, however you pace this out, maybe you're doing it day by day or whatever the time period was that actually was recommended from HR University. Let's say that you send out a notification and a notification introduces them to the training hub. So on SharePoint, you have a training hub. And when you get to this training hub, maybe you have to answer some kind of questions or fill out something so that the person can understand what their pathway is going to be, right? They answer a couple selections, and then the system tells them, all right, well, you should be on this pathway. That's one thing you can do. Or you could just have a page of training where every employee has to take these, every employee has to take these trainings, and it's on the page. And SharePoint doesn't work like a traditional LMS where it's going to like track your progress and all that. But, that's a bit of a trade-off you get there. So if you don't get to track progress of what classes they're taking, but they manually click off and say they've taken the training, then maybe you could set them up with a quiz on the back end to prove that they could take it. Or maybe when they have a meeting with you, you ask them a couple questions about the training to see if they actually did take the training. You got some ways around it. The point is you can use SharePoint to incorporate various parts of the training process. So let's say they go through the training segment. I'm sorry. So let's say they go through the training, they hit submit, and then you in HR, you get a notification saying that this person has completed training. And if you see that they've completed training, this prompts you to take your step now. There's another thing that you have to do. Maybe you have to usher them into segment 5. And segment 5 is the check-in stage, right? Now, here's my thoughts about the check-in stage. So on SharePoint, you can do something like a weekly activity report. Now, this is not something that already exists. You got to build one, and it's not that difficult. But I've built a weekly activity report. I talked about this, I think, in the last episode, maybe before that, where every week I put in, what was accomplished or what I'm working on. I have a risks and issues area. I have I title the whole thing. I have the date that it applies to or the week, for the week of whatever. I do this already. I have a weekly activity report. I fill out this information inside of SharePoint, and then it gets automatically sent. Now, along with automatically sending, you also get the archive. So every time it gets sent, you still are keeping the archive in SharePoint. So my thing when it comes to the 6-month check-in is that if you have set this new employee up with a weekly activity report, hopefully you have, and the weekly activity report gets configured to where it gets sent to the manager, it gets sent to whoever did the initial onboarding, maybe it gets sent to the employee, the buddy that we selected. come the 6th month, then either that manager or the buddy or whoever, probably the manager, is going to have a check-in with this person to see how things are going. Man, now that I think about this, imagine if the check-in process was more than just your manager. Let's say you got onboarded, maybe you got recruited by a person, then someone else onboarded you, somebody from HR, then you had a buddy assigned to you, and then you have your manager. And over the beginning of the 6 months, your weekly activity reports are being sent to these people. And then when you do the review, I like thinking out of the box. When you do the review, instead of being, this one-on-one with your manager, 4 people can come to your review. The manager, the person that recruited you, your buddy, and the person that onboarded you. They all come to your review, and maybe they'll have input on these notifications they've been getting for the last 6 months. They notice, where you might be struggling, or they notice where you might be succeeding, or whatever. Like, I don't know if this is already a thing. Maybe I'm late to the party, but I think this is pretty cool. You could have a team of people do your 6-month review, but your manager obviously has the last say on, what happens after that. But these folks can help inform your manager about what's going on. Dang, I really like this idea. I'd like to know, if you're at an organization where they're doing team reviews. That'd be pretty cool to know. Anyway, there it is. That is my input on the HR University 5-step or 5-segment onboarding process. I gave you what I think are some good tips to plug the holes inside of your onboarding process. Yeah, now if that was helpful, let me know. And if you have a process right now, that you want me to review or give some input on, then hit me up and let me know. Now, I'm not going to do any deep dives, but if you give me the high level version of your process, I'll do literally what I did here. We looked at the high level, and then I came up with some ideas that would help enhance this. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're dropping the ball at certain places. Let's enhance this. Yo, I forgot to mention, the message that gets sent to the CEO, you could put something in place like this, right? The CEO gets a notification that says this person is new to the company and they've just submitted the initial intake form. The CEO could look through that information that came into the inbox, and then really quickly shoot a response video so that every new employee gets a video response from the CEO or from multiple leaders in the organization, because they all got the notification. And maybe in your intake, you mentioned something about Disney, and one of our leaders is like a Disney fanatic. So when the leader responds, the leader says, "Welcome on board. Glad to have you. What I handle here is this, that, and the third. So you would come see me about this. I work in building whatever on this floor. Now I do work hybrid. I'm here for 2 days, gone for 3 days, whatever." And then they say, "It's great to hear that you are a Disney fan. I love Disney. I go every year. I'm at Magic Kingdom every year. That's my favorite park, blah, 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 blah." Something to connect leadership with these new folks and the new employee with leadership. It's a two-way street. You know what I mean? So, you could really do up your onboarding process, and it could start basic and you could, improve over time. But I really like this idea. It came to me while I was while I was finishing up here. All right. That's it. I hope you got something out of that. Let's move on to the next segment, which we all know, if you are a regular listener of the show, is LinkedIn Love. So this week on LinkedIn Love, I'm giving a shout out to Ryan Connell. Now, the reason I'm shouting out Ryan Connell is because I went to a what do you call that? I went to an event at the beginning of the fiscal year, the government fiscal year, October 1. And I met someone who had a breakout room at this event that I went to that was really good. And they gave me the name of someone that she said that she used to do a podcast, but she's no longer doing a podcast. Instead, her colleague is doing a podcast. And this person is who I'm talking about. So Ryan Connell was the name that she gave me. I hit him up on LinkedIn, and I'm like, yeah, I just met your colleague. She put me on this, that, and the third, told me to reach out to you because I was interested in listening to the show. After we talked a little bit just back and forth, he was like, yeah, do you want to come on and be a guest on the show? I was like, hell yeah. So yeah, and I just that interview just went live. I'll leave the link inside of the Connect. The Connect is the section of the show notes where you can find all the links that I mentioned. So yeah, the show's called Defense Mavericks. And we talked about SharePoint, but we also talked about branding, a little bit of business, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about, even though I'm still growing. You know what I'm saying? I love the whole world of business, online business. That's the whole thing for me. So I'm gonna leave the link. I want you to tune in. It was a good episode. I really enjoyed myself. Hopefully you enjoy yourself listening as well. Now, shout out to Ryan Connell. Let's talk about fan mail. All right, can't lie, I'm a little surprised that I haven't gotten any fan mail. I got that one fan mail, and then a follow-up, and then nobody else has hit me up since. Now, what do I got to do? Like make a contest? Do I got to bribe y'all in order to do this? Maybe I will. I'll think about bribing you. But before I get to bribing you, I'll say what I was talking about before. If you send me a message saying your overall process, I will respond in the fan mail section and give you some tips about how you could inject SharePoint into your process. So in your what is that called? In your podcast app, you should see something that says something like send us a text. Click on that, and then when you click on that, it will send me notification like fan mail. It'll say, hey, you got fan mail. And then I'll get that in my inbox. I'll read it. I'll be excited. I'll go do, some jumps of joy and all that. And, I'll respond on the next episode. So yeah, send me some fan mail. I will review your process and give you some tips. Hopefully that'll get you off the couch and make you send some fan mail. All right. Announcements. So I only got one announcement this week. SharePoint freebie. Go to SharePointFreebie.com. Here's the reason why. That is where I introduce you to your first list building experience, right? So right now you create spreadsheets, which I don't think is a good idea because you create them with the intention of having other people fill that spreadsheet out and give you data, like give data back to you. I would suggest that you don't do that. Instead, create a list. And instead of having people put information inside of a spreadsheet, what they will do is open up, you'll send them a link, they'll click on the link and then put information inside of a form. Then they'll hit submit, and then you will get that data put inside of a table, a SharePoint list. It'll look like a spreadsheet. If you go to SharePointFreebie.com, that will be your introduction to what that process looks like. And I'm telling you, if you do that, if you implement what I'm talking about, you'll be able to like do this literally. If you go and get this Tuesday morning, by Tuesday afternoon, you can have this done. And that's even a stretch. If you consume what I'm giving you at 9 a.m, then you come up with some ideas because you was about to create a spreadsheet. So you think, how could I do this using what Thurman just showed me? You do that during the 10 o'clock hour. Then, you brainstorm a little bit more. You go to lunch, you come back from lunch. And literally when you come back from lunch, you could do what I showed you and make it happen and look cool at your organization because people are going to be like, wait a minute, what is this? What are you using? Didn't even know we had access to this. Look, I can't sell it any. Yes, I can. I can sell it some more, but I'm going to stop. And I'm going to say, go to SharePointFreebie.com. Go ahead and get you your first list building experience. And then, hit me up and tell me if you liked it. And matter of fact, I'm going to spruce that up some more because I got a ton of ideas, but I try to not go too crazy. I just want you to get the first understanding of how, using a list works. Anyway, that's it. That is all I have for this episode. I hope that was useful. Make sure you check the show notes for anything that I mentioned, and I will see you next week. Oh yeah, don't forget, I know you're probably already watching this on YouTube. For those that are watching on YouTube, this is not for you, but the message is, if you're only listening on audio, don't forget you could also catch this on video if you want. Really enjoying YouTube. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.